How I fill my buckets before retirement. Start off with a question. If the market drops 40% 3 months before your retirement, would your retirement date need to change? Let's fix that. A lot of people, the answer is yes. So let's fix it starting at 5 years ahead of time. Okay, so this is just going to be my experience, what I tried to do retiring. This is not advice. This is unique to me, but you got to do you. Your situation is going to be a little bit different. You may need to contact a certified financial planner. But let's get into this. First thing, you don't have to take any notes. I am going to link a document that I'm reading from over here. It's going to be a Word document. You have access to all these steps. So just listen. If you like what you hear, go to that link, download it. It's yours. Okay, my gift to you. Here's what I ask in return. Just 26% of this audience is subscribing. Okay, so please give me a subscribe. I'm pushing towards 100,000 this month. Kind of a small chance I could get there by the end of the year. Definitely in the next couple months. But I'm getting excited about this. Help me out, okay? Sorry to put my ego in on this. So, hey, let's jump into this. Why buckets must be built before retirement? Buckets protect your retirement date from market risk. A down market, like I said, just before retirement. You know, so many people just have too much equity, too much risk right before retirement. Buckets give you that peace of mind. How many years can you cover without selling stocks? That's why you have buckets. Sequence of return risk, market goes down, you spend out of your fixed assets. Buckets help you discover whether you can retire even earlier than you thought was possible because you start the real math. Waiting until time zero, the date you retire, that's the number one mistake I see people making. They go to a certified financial planner, they contact me, they send me a comment, say I'm 100% equities, my retirement date's on Monday, what do I do? Ends up meaning they delay retirement. So at the end of this video, first thing I'm going to go through step by step of how I managed my buckets, created them, and then I think there's like 7 common mistakes, and we'll go through those too. Okay, 5 years before, and this more is better. You know, you can do this 7 years ahead of time, but 5 years, I just chose to pick the minimum I would consider. If you start 5 years out, you may discover, this happens all the time, that you can retire 2 or 3 years earlier than you thought was possible. And then, you know, you've got less time to react, but that's a good problem to have. So I say 5 because you may end up just being, 2 or 3 years because you didn't get serious about retirement planning. A lot of people just do a back of a napkin kind of calculations. Can I retire? 4% rule. Here's how much money I got, and then do it from there. That's not serious. Also, 5 years gives you time to manage tax implications. When you're moving assets around, selling equities, building out your fixed income, and getting them in the right asset location, maybe a brokerage account, a Roth account, that may require you to make some moves that require taxes. So minimizing the impact of that 5 years out. So let's jump into this step by step. 5 years out, awareness and first measurements. Define your annual spending, okay, for retirement. Real math, not just guesses. That includes your one-time expenses, like a new furnace, new roof, car. Unplanned expenses, I put in $250 every single month for unplanned expenses. Dishwasher breaks. Go-go spending, slow-go spending, no-go spending, all that stuff is included in your expenses. Also define your income. Social Security, pensions, rentals, part-time work, for example. And then number 3 is you pick your bucket structure. Okay? Not working the amounts yet, but buckets are net of income. Okay? People get this wrong. When I say you need 3 years of expenses in bucket 1, or you determine you want 3 years of expenses in bucket 1, that's not, if your expenses are $60,000, you take 3 times $60,000, you need $180,000 in bucket 1. No, it's net of income. So you take your expenses, subtract out income, and that's what you need from your buckets annually. Okay, here's an example. $60,000 are your expenses. Okay, you have $20,000 of income. 60 minus 20 is 40. $40,000 a year is what you need from your buckets. So to have 3 years in bucket one, you had to take 3 times 40,000. Okay, that's 120,000. Okay, now this is, I took out inflation on this. You're obviously going to have, your expenses are going to go up by inflation every year. So it's a little more complicated than this, but be careful. This is your buckets are what you need from your assets net of your income. Subtract out your income from your expenses first. Okay, total expenses. A 3-bucket example, and this is kind of how I retired. Not kind of, it's exactly how I retired. I had 3 years in fixed in bucket one, and then I had 3 years in a 60-40 fund, like a Wellington fund, and then the rest was in equity, bucket 3, my growth engine. The reason I did that is I retired in 2019, and fixed was paying near zero, 1% or less. I couldn't stand that. And so I chose to have this second bucket of a 60-40 fund that has done pretty well over periods of time. So that's how I retired on a 3-bucket portfolio. Now I actually use 2 buckets. Okay, 2 buckets could be like, say you have 6 years in fixed, and then the balance you got in equities. So your bucket 2 is everything else, equities. Bucket 1 is a 6 years. I currently have 10 years in my bucket 1, and I've grown up to that, built up to that 10 years. That 10 years gives me right at an 83% equity, 10% or 17%, 17% fixed. Now, I already talked about how I retired with 3 buckets. So, hey folks, before I continue, my name is Joe. I'm sharing my retirement journey. I've been retired for 7 years. I'm currently 61. I'm not sharing my experiences to be a prescription for you, but rather one man's journey. Maybe you can learn something. Maybe you need to study something that I highlight along the way, just to make it easier for you to retire early because you've heard my story. All right. Now, one of the things people are often asked is, what's your risk profile? Are you 60-40, you 80-20? And I'm like, well, that's a feeling. I like to calculate that. So I calculate my fixed to equity or my equity to fixed ratio based on buckets. So I've got 10 years of expenses that I need to cover for my equities, need to cover for my fixed. 10 years expenses I need from my fixed, net of income again, and I total that, and then the remainder are my equities. So that's why I'm 83-17. That's not my target. I back calculate it. Okay. Number 5, I run a mock. This is 5 years out still. Run a mock retirement plan. Maybe you can do this in a spreadsheet. I use Boldin, Boldin. And some of you will want to go to a certified financial planner and kind of take your back of the napkin calculations, your small spreadsheet, and want them to create a comprehensive plan for you. That's good. There's plan only pricing that you can get. Boldin, I got a link to that for 2 free weeks if you like that. And I got 4 financial advisor companies linked below. Take a look at them. All of them do plan creation for a fixed fee, not assets under management, but a fixed fee. Take a look at those. Number 6, have your plan externally verified by a certified financial planner. Do not skip this step, folks. Too many proud DIYers go down this path, and then they find out through life events that they missed something in their plan. They misunderstood something in their plan. They got an error in their plan. I found 2 companies that'll do a $300 plan review for you. Check out my videos. There's links in there. And like I said, they're for plan creation. There's links in there for, getting a certified financial planner, people that I've talked to and dealt with. But you got to get some sort of external review, or you won't have the confidence to retire. You won't have confidence to retire earlier. Okay, it just doesn't happen. Number 7, start doing some pre-tax planning. Tax planning is a big deal in retirement. Where do you want each bucket to be located? Do you want it to be bucket 1 to be in your traditional IRA? Do you want it to be in a brokerage account? Do you want it to be in a Roth? Where do you want it located for your situation? You know, it's very important for not only taxes, but your Medicare supplement premiums that are income-based. It's called IRMA. And also, if you're planning on retiring before Medicare at 65, if you go with the Affordable Care Act, the credits are based on your income. So you'll want to manage that, okay? And it's not too complex, but there's a lot to it. You know, the output of this 5-year start look is you know your expenses, you know your income, and you know your preferred bucket design, what makes you feel good. Hey, I want 10 years of expenses, 6 years of expenses. I want 2 buckets, 3 buckets, okay? Okay, now about the 4.5-year mark, you begin to shift money, okay? Shift assets around. Start filling the fixed bucket slowly. This is your cash, your CDs, your short-term treasuries, your money market fund, reliable things that aren't moving around with the stock market. You may want to move 5 to 15% a quarter, depending on if you're at new market highs. You know, if the market's just at new highs, you may want to shift 20% or more. But if the market's at, you know, you're down significantly, you may want to just move maybe 5%. Number 2, begin trimming your concentrated equity positions. This is very common in 401ks. Maybe you have 100% equities, all your assets, 100% in equities. You know, okay, you start shifting away from that. Also, a lot of times people have a lot of company stock. Maybe 30% of their net worth is in company stock, individual stocks, Bitcoin. I've seen all this stuff. Remember, the goal here is you're shifting from an all growth mindset. This is hard. This is very hard. All growth mindset, you're shifting to safety with growth. So you're going to sacrifice some returns to get some safety, okay? And that's going to be the hardest step here of building buckets, okay? Your output here in your about 4.5 years, your fixed bucket begins to form, your risk concentration reduces, safety increases. Okay, now you're at time 3 years before retirement. If you have this intermediate bucket, start to fill it up, okay? Start to fill it up. Coordinate all this asset placement with taxes, bonds. You know, you may want to put them in tax deferred accounts because they're going to be generating money. So you may, you know, when there's tax consequences of them, you know, getting a return. And equities, you know, often belong in a brokerage account or in like a Roth account. And there's all kinds of guidance on that, but make sure you're paying attention to taxes for asset location. Now, if you're not having an intermediate term bucket, you may have 6-7 years in your bucket 1. So this step, just keep filling that bucket 1 up. Also make an annual check here. Are you on track to retire in 3 years? You know, you're 3 years out. So does it still make sense? Could you retire sooner? Okay. The output here is intermediate bucket is partially filled and the fixed bucket is maybe 60 to 70% filled at the 3-year mark. Time 2 years before retirement, stress test and acceleration. Okay, number 1, run a stress test. What that is, hey, have the market drop 40%. Can you still retire? Can you still retire if that happens 2 years out? Are you in that position? Accelerate your bucket funding, increase your moves to try to hit that, you know, time 0 date of retirement. Start filling that bucket 1 and 2 if you have bucket 1 and 2, the short term and intermediate. And check your early retirement scenario. Can I retire earlier? Keep asking that question. So many people that go through these steps of getting serious about retirement planning find out they can retire early. So I'm always putting that in. Can you retire earlier than you thought? You should have at this time your buckets, you know, around 2 years ahead of time, 80 to 90% filled. Time -1 year to retirement. Complete your fixed bucket funding, your bucket one as I call it. Complete your allocation for your intermediate bucket. If you have that could be bucket two. Review the tax placement and income sources, your Social Security, your pension. Review all those income sources. Review where your money is located for your taxes. Taxes are a big deal in retirement planning and execution. Simplify accounts, okay? At least a year out. Consolidate your old 401ks. I knew somebody that had like 6 401ks. Just consolidate those down. Be careful moving 401ks over to IRAs. 401ks have a Rule 72T. I think it's at the age of 55. You can actually pull money out of an IRA, of a 401k at the age of 55 if certain conditions are met. If you transfer it to an IRA, you don't have access to that money before 59 and a half without a penalty. So be careful converting 401ks to IRAs. It may make sense, may not make sense. May be an option you want to have, okay? Be prepared. Okay, so 1 year ahead of time, really, your bucket, your short-term and intermediate buckets ready to go. Your long-term buckets ready to go. Then you hit your retirement date. Okay, buckets are fully ready. No market drop could force you back into retirement. Market goes down 40%. Your plan, this is your bucket one. This is what you prepared for. Sequence of return risk is prepared for, okay? So there you go. There's my timeline of starting about 5 years in advance, building buckets. This is what I did, not prescriptive for you, okay? Take this as entertainment. Take this as one man's journey, not your journey. Study more. Okay, common mistakes. Mistake number 1, waiting until a retirement date to set up buckets. I've seen this a lot. And people panic a month ahead of time when the market drops 30%. They can't retire. They've already communicated they're retiring. They've already hired somebody else. It's just a real problem. You got to start transitioning at least 5 years in advance. Mistake number 2, not starting 5 years out. Getting serious on the math and involving a certified financial planner reveals so many people can retire earlier than possible. So start that 5 years out at a minimum. Find out maybe you can retire in 3. Then you just got to accelerate some things. You can do it. Mistake number 3, guessing at spending numbers. I think I spend about $4,000 a month. What? You got to include unplanned, go, slow go, no go, and detail spending. Detail it, okay? You got to have a budget. Buckets depend on accurate math, not rules of thumb. Hey, I'm going to spend 80% of my pre-retirement income, so I'm just going to use that. No. Get insurance quotes, health insurance. What are you going to do? Mistake number 4, concentration risk ignored in late career. So like people will have, they're retiring on Monday and have 100% equities, or they got 50% in their own company stock, 80% in Bitcoin. These are real examples, folks. Mistake number 5, trying to time the market with buckets. This gets difficult. Now, hey, if the market's at new highs, hey, it wouldn't be the dumbest idea just to convert everything if you think the market's at all-time highs. And they are several times. Actually, more often than not, you're pushing up new highs. So be careful trying to time the market. You need to make progress. But if the market is at new highs, you don't need to just convert 5%. You may fill up bucket one all on one big swoop. After you look at taxes, okay? After you look at taxes, look at all the consequences, taxes being the biggest one, and find out what location you want, where you want that bucket one to be. But be careful waiting for the perfect day. That day will never come. And the closer you get retirement, the more risk you got of delaying your retirement. Or that could be embarrassing. Mistake number 6, ignoring taxes when placing money in buckets. That's a big deal. Not only the tax consequences of putting them in that bucket, but also the tax consequences when that account grows. You want your big equities in a Roth account, maybe equities in your deferred account, bonds in a deferred account, maybe equities in a bucket 2, for example, if you want. So find out where it makes sense for you to have for taxes. Mistake number 7, overcomplicating the strategy. So many people think buckets are complex. I don't think they're complex at all. It's how I think. Bucket 1 is 10 years of expenses that I need from my assets. Okay, I got my income, and the rest I need from my assets. I got 10 years. Market goes down. I've got 10 years covered. I go on with my life. Okay, I go on with my life. After, every 6 months, I go in and I audit where my buckets are. If the market's down, I don't do anything. If the market is near all-time highs again, I top it back off, keeping my bucket 1 prepared for the next bear market, the next downturn. That's all I'm doing. Very simple to do. I don't know why people think it's complicated. The other complication that people put on buckets is they try to have 6 to 10 micro buckets. I get by. I like having 2. I may go back to 3 someday if fixed returns, go down near 0. Gosh, that's just difficult to put 10 years of expenses and earning 0. That's difficult. So I currently have 2 because I'm getting about 4% on a lot of my bucket 1. Start early, build gradually, have everything in place by your retirement date. Do not forget to have your plan verified by a certified financial planner. I got a great solution for you there. I found 2 companies that'll do that for $300. I don't think you can find that deal anywhere else in the world. I found that, negotiated with them. These are leading edge companies. Check them out. There's a link in all my videos. The biggest risk to your retirement right now, if you're approaching retirement, it isn't the market. It's waiting too long to begin putting your plan together and getting your plan for sequence of return risk, down market risk, to get that in place. Okay, buckets is one solution I use. It's not the only one. It's the solution I use. Show out.